All right, so what we're going to be discussing here is the body's position that we get to the moment our front foot gets into the ground for the very first time. And this moment in time is called our foot strike. So we are going to be talking about the moment when, boom, those feet get into the ground for the very first time. And again, that's called our foot strike position. At foot strike, we want to be looking at our body in two halves. Our upper half and our lower half. At foot strike, we want our lower half to have rotated forward towards our target. And a useful thing to look at to know if we've been able to do that is the belt buckle. And is that belt buckle facing the target? If the belt buckle is facing the target, it's a pretty good chance that we have successfully rotated both the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip. When we're able to rotate the back foot, the back knee, and the back hip, as our front foot is getting into that foot strike position, we will successfully be able to get our belt buckle driving towards the target. If we specifically take a look at just the back foot of these four guys, let's watch as they are rotating that back leg, how that back foot is rotating. At this point in time, all four guys still have their entire foot flat onto the ground, and then they begin to rotate through or over top of their big toe. Their foot kind of rolls, folds over, or drives forward. And as the foot does that motion, we now shift our view to the back knee and know as the foot is rolling over the big toe, that the back knee is also rotating forward. And how those two things, the back foot and the back knee, are working together. We can also see that as we go to drive and rotate that back foot and back knee, how they do that while they gain ground down the mound and towards their catcher. So this is the difference between rotating our bodies forward, or a word for that is driving ourselves forward, versus just rotating in place. If we were just rotating in place, our bodies would not be able to gain this ground down the mound. Our bodies wouldn't be able to accelerate our power and energy down the mound. And we can then look and see that the foot has the toe, and then the heel is in front of the toe, meaning we have rotated forward. We then go to the upper body, the upper halves, from the waist up, and we want to separate that upper body from the lower body. We want the direction that our hips are facing, which is to the target, to be separate from the direction our shoulders are facing. So we notice we can see the Giants, the Padres, the Pirates, and his number. We can see the Phillies, and we can see the Brewers or Milwaukee. I'm not sure what they have displayed on their jerseys there. So the direction of their lower bodies is to the target, and the direction of their shoulders is still facing, for these right-handers, towards third base, or the direction they have been the entire time. So we rotate the lower body first, then we get into foot strike, then we rotate our upper body second. And the more that we can get those lower bodies to fully rotate to the target by the time that front foot hits the ground, and we've also been able to keep that upper body from rotating and staying back, we will have created as much upper lower half separation or hip shoulder separation as possible. And the more hip shoulder separation or upper lower half separation we can create, the more power we're going to be able to produce, and the amount of stress that's put on our arm is going to be reduced. What we're also going to notice is that almost regardless of your arm slot, if we have a true 3/4, low 3/4, high 3/4, an over-the-top arm slot, or anything in between those, we're always going to find ourselves in a relatively 90 degree angle, meaning from our elbow across to our other shoulder, we want to think is nice and even. 90 degrees in that armpit. We also want to think 90 degrees in that elbow. We want this type of arm position, that 90-90, we'll call it, at the moment of foot strike. When our arm has loaded up to this position here, at the moment of foot strike, and the upper body has not rotated yet, our body's rotation will accelerate the throw forward. If the arm is not in this 90-90 position, the body's rotation forward is going to be less than ideal and in sync with how the arm will flow after the body goes. So we're looking for this 90-90-ish position in that throwing arm at foot strike. What we can also notice at foot strike is, where is this glove at? It's in front of the body by the rib cage. We're not letting it, if we're thinking here's some water, don't drown the glove. Don't let your glove get wet. Don't drown that glove. This one right here is a little too high. Should be more towards the belt. Okay. When the glove gets finished into the body like this, it's able to help keep this front shoulder in line, meaning it's not going to open up early. Because if that front shoulder starts to open up early, that's going to start to pull the back shoulder forward early. And now we would not have separated our upper and lower halves as much, because the angle of the shoulders would begin to rotate forward, which would be more matching the angle of the hips. The final thing we're going to look at is this front leg. We see all these guys have different degrees of bend in their front legs. But what we're going to notice is that as the upper body now rotates to throw, we need to make our front leg become a firm fixture of which we can rotate around. So thinking about this front leg here turning into a flagpole. My flagpole is always going to be strongest if it's straight. Or at least I can't have my flagpole move forward while my body is trying to rotate forward. So we'll redraw these little outlines here, and we will have these guys. Oh man, that's all right. It's gonna get back to it anyway. Boom. And now we'll watch as they go to throw. How that leg is locking out, stiffening up, straightening out. So that now that leg is here. Now that leg is here. Now that leg is here and here. From the bend, straightening it out. And what we can notice is as that leg locks out, stiffens up, straightens out, becomes that firm flagpole, notice how that upper body is able to catapult itself out in front and down more. Able to get out in front more. Out in front more. So that way, if we look, we can't get everyone exactly at release, but ball just out, ball just out, ball is coming out, ball is slightly a little bit more out than the bottom two. But we're able to look at this angle of the chin to the waist, back out to the front foot, boom, boom, boom. Just how out in front of themselves they're getting. And that's because of that front leg's ability to lock out. So we can see that they're starting, boom, boom, there, and there. So now it's not just the arm throwing the ball down, it's the body throwing the ball down. It's the body going down with the throw, body accelerating down. And as the body's accelerating down, the lower half is firming up. So that way, as I need to finish all this violent rotation, I have the ability to do that around that firm front leg. I have that ability to rotate around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my back leg around. I can finish all that violent rotation from my hips around. I can finish all that violent rotation out of my back shoulder around, giving my arm plenty of time to slow down and giving the back muscles, my scapular muscles, all the time they need to activate and slow down that rapidly accelerating arm. Now that we've had the time to watch and learn the pitching delivery from the side view, we will be able to watch our own individual videos. After you watch your individual clip, you can then go to one of the first group discussions that will help those that have mechanical flaws that are identifiable from this side view to better understand what it needs to look like with an additional big league video example and some more breakdown. All right, so after being able to watch the big league videos there from the side and get to hear and learn about the pitching delivery with those great examples, we had the opportunity to watch your individual video, and you may have noticed, maybe not, but hopefully you were able to see that your back leg was looking different when it was paused at that moment of foot strike, when your front leg, your leg lift leg hit the ground again. So what we're going to do is we're going to show this 4 of you guys here who all had that same issue together to help you better understand what that's looking like and how we want it to look like. And then at practice, we'll start to work on drills to help correct that. So here is your 4 guys' back leg drive. So just watch your back leg and what it's doing up until the moment your front foot gets into the ground where we paused you at here. So we'll go back one more time so you can watch it again. What does your back foot, your back knee, your back hip, what does it do? What does it look like once that foot gets into the ground? Oh, I should have paused it a little sooner. Okay. So what we saw from the big league videos was we would need that back foot to be rotating through the big toe. Very similar to what we have here. Okay. What we see over here and here and here is we're just on our tippy toes right here. We're just on our tippy toes. Our heel has just lifted off the ground. The heel has lifted off the ground, and the heel has lifted off the ground. There's no rotation yet in the back foot. Maybe a little bit here, but none here or here yet. And when the back foot is not able to get into a position like this, it's really tough for our body to get going down the mound. The next thing we saw was the back knee getting really turned over. And what we can see is even though your back foot didn't rotate a lot, your back knee really did most of its work. It's really trying to work hard, work hard, work hard. We can see that window of it really turning over, right, aggressively. Now, if we imagine this back foot getting itself into a position like we see here, where it's driving forward, driving forward, driving forward, and we can even imagine if you, bud, were able to get it to do this movement for longer before this front foot hit the ground, it would turn over even more. And if it turned over even more, this back knee could get turned over more. Because even though you got, if we called this getting turned over a full 1, you're at like 80%. And this right here, you're like at 70%. Over here, we're only at like 5 or 10% because your belt buckle is still very much over towards us. And what we learned with the big league videos, we want that belt buckle going towards that target. So we got to get that foot to turn over more. But the good news is your foot knows exactly what to do. So now we just got to give it the time to do it for longer so that I can do it for more. The only way it can do it for more and for longer is if this foot does not hit the ground as early as it does. So we got to think about keeping that weight back for a little bit longer so then we can drive off of that back leg more aggressively to get us to go a little bit further down the mound. And with more time of going down the mound, will allow the back knee to rotate for more, which then will hopefully get this back hip to really drive forward. But we also got to put some thought into and feel into getting the back hip to drive forward. So we're going to have to do some drills to help promote that. Over here, like we were talking about with the back foot, we just need it to get it to turn over. We need to get some rotation through the big toe. In order to do that, we got to keep the heel on the ground. We got to keep the heel on the ground for as long as we can. All right? If we look, as your guys' heels are coming off the ground, Buddy's heel over here is still on the ground. So we then look at the kneecap, and we can see that that kneecap's still facing us. So because the foot has not done any rotation, it makes it very tough for the knee to do any rotation. But if we do look at your back hip is wanting to go. Your back hip is wanting to go, wanting to go, wanting to go, wanting to go. So you're winning this battle up here, which is of the three, going to help generate the most power. Maybe the foot could be considered the most power, but this is definitely driving things through for you, okay? We just need to get this knee to turn over, and we need to learn how to keep that heel on the ground longer so we can drive through the big toe. Over here, our lower body just in general is not doing much. We're just kind of just stepping and putting it down, stepping and putting it down, stepping and putting it down. This is what guys would say, like we're just playing catch on the mound instead of pitching. That's what this kind of looks like. We're just stepping and putting it down. So we got to get this hip to rotate, knee to rotate, and foot to rotate. So just being able to watch that big league video from the side, the quad box of all of them, and just visually seeing what they were doing is going to be very helpful for you. And then we're just going to have to pound back leg rotation drills for you, which is not a problem. I got a bunch of different ones that you can do all day, every day while you sit and watch TV. And then obviously from hearing 1, 2, and 3, 4, we pretty much have a good idea of what we're needing to work on. Like we said, your knee is really good. We just need to learn how to keep that heel in the ground so that way the foot can drive yourself and that back hip can get involved. But at least you got 1 out of the 3 that you do very well. So we'll use Ben Joyce to help us see a better, more aggressive, and on-time back leg. So from here, we'll just watch what this back leg is doing in terms of what the foot, the knee, and the hip is doing and how that influences this belt buckle of his. So we see that knee really coming through. We can see that heel staying on the ground. So that way we can drive through the big toe. Which then gets that back hip going forward. Which then gets ultimately that belt buckle towards that target when that front foot gets into the ground. Where we're back at our 90-90 in that throwing arm, that glove working its way back into the chest, as we then get that trunk to slam itself forward and down towards the target to help get that arm out in front through release as we continue to get that chest down before we ultimately stack it up and around. So one more time for you to see what we're looking for from that back leg. And then one more time for you guys to see your back leg. All right, after getting to watch the big league videos from the side view, and being able to watch your own videos, you may notice, or maybe not, that we could potentially get more power behind our pitches if we get our trunk or our upper body more involved with the throwing process, specifically getting us down the mound, right? So what we're going to see here is exactly that. I got everybody started here at foot strike, right? So that moment that your front foot has hit the ground is where we're at, because we don't start throwing until that ball, or I'm sorry, we don't start our throw until that foot is in the ground. What we can see is that some of us are in different positions from one another. If we were to say what is the ideal position, well, we learned from the big leaguers that we're looking for that 90-degree bend in our elbow and our armpit. We're looking for that glove to be working up into that armpit. We're looking for that back hip to have been fired. We're looking for that belt buckle to be going towards the target as these shoulders stay squared with our chin looking over, or our chin looking over our shoulder with our eyes to the target. So we can see over here that front shoulder is opened early. Your chin is looking over nothing. The front shoulder has opened early. The front shoulder has opened early. Front shoulder is opened early. Front shoulder is trying not to open early, but it is getting out there a little bit early. And we're also getting a little ahead of ourselves with our chin to our hip, or a chin to our belt buckle, right? We're just a little bit on a forward angle, because here we're tall and loaded back. We're tall and loaded back. We're starting to go forward a little bit. We're tall, loaded back, tall, loaded back. Starting to go forward just a little bit. So if we're looking for an ideal position, we're saying right here would be the most ideal position for foot strike. So what we're going to notice now is getting you guys into release, right? I have everything. When the video pauses, it'll be at your time of release. Oh, let me take us back and do that again. Okay, so if we did one of these and said there's straight line, straight line, straight line, your straight line, and we got to get your guys' line going just a bit this way, just a bit this way. All right. So now when we get you into release, we'll see how much of your upper body, how much of your trunk from your shoulders to your hips, how much of this section of your body did you help your arm get out in front and down this mound. So we'll let it run to that position, and we'll pause it again. And we'll draw that line, draw that line, we'll draw that line for each of you guys. And what we can see, that one shouldn't have gone that high. I'm just trying to go to the back of your head. I'm just using the trackpad, so I don't have the best control over that cursor. So the amount that we've brought that trunk down in terms of like degrees or angle, how much we've used it or how little we've used it, is helping us produce power. Now, what we want to think about is the more I can get this angled, the further out in front I can get my hand to still have connection with that baseball. And what we can notice is the guys that have the smallest amount of downward tilt are the guys that are releasing the ball closest to their chins. And the guys that are having the biggest angle are the guys that have the ball the furthest away from their bodies at release. Now, we may say, well, what about our guy over here? He's just as far out as our guy over here, if not even maybe more further out. Well, it kind of all comes back to here and the timing of when we get out. because we've gotten out a little too much too early, and this arm is starting to be dragged through early. Now we're just not on time. We're not using the trunk to bring the arm through. The arm is already coming through, and the chest is just going to play catch up with it. So what we can see is as your chest goes forward, your arm is also coming forward. Whereas when this chest starts to go forward, the arm is still staying back here, right? The ball is still back here. So that way the chest can still go forward some more and bring that ball through. And because your chest just gets out in front early, plus this shoulder rotation a little early, that's why even though you're way out in front, it's not as powerful as it could be. So getting out in front is one half of the battle. Being on time out in front is almost even more important. So we're a group that we're going to be able to create more power when we get this movement better synced up. So to help us with that, I got a guy that we should all know who's an elite velocity guy hitting 104s. We'll pause him at his moment of foot strike, right? So there's that 90 that we're looking for. We got that tall chest, and now we'll notice as he gets himself out into release somewhere in between these two frames, because we can see that white blur of that wicked fast fastball coming out of his hands. So we'll draw him out to there. So all of that is bam, that's power being produced by the body. And now let's watch how, as he comes through, how he has to come even further down to finish all of that energy before he ultimately stacks himself up with his chest nice and tall again, ready for anything that may come back at him. All right? So now let's look at you guys here at this release position, and let's see how much further down after release we go. So we'll play it here. Okay, so it may look like we went down more, but we kind of just went forward more over here, right? You just went towards the target more. We didn't really necessarily go chest down more. Same thing with over here. We're just kind of going forward towards the target more, not necessarily chest down that angle more. Over here we got a little bit. And if there's anything that I could look to try to help you squeeze something more out of your delivery, it's that aspect of we're already dropping the hammer down. Let's keep bringing that hammer, that back shoulder, down and around. Just a little bit more of this shoulder coming, whooah, just a little bit more. We can squeeze a little bit extra power out of it. We come over to you guys up here, and we can see we're doing a pretty good job of that here, getting it after the throw. Now we just got to get it taller to start so we can use all of that to our benefit. And it's going to be easier to do that when that front shoulder is staying in. Because once that back shoulder starts to come through, it's time to throw. So if it's time to throw, it's time to get the chest to go down. But it's not time to get the chest to go down because it's not time to throw. Because it's not time to open that front shoulder because the front foot just now got to the ground. So we can see how when one little thing is early, two things become early, three things become early, four things become early. So let's get us back to over here, straight there, and then Again, we're not really going down more. We're just kind of going the whole body forward more. So we got to keep finishing that throw down. And then same thing over here. We got boom, and then the body's just going forward more. You're finishing it good around, right? Because we can see that name on the back of your sweatshirt there getting wrapped around you. You're going around good, but we're up on this mound, and the strike zone's down here. We got to go down and around. So you got one half of the battle down really good, and that's the around part. We just got to work on getting down, 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 down. So one more time to see the young flamethrower do it.